And we're live. Welcome to the Best in Slot Podcast, a Warcraft podcast by the community for the community. I'm your main host, Sparty, and I'm here with my co-host, Midgettes. Hello, Midgettes. How are you today?
Hey, Sparty. Doing good. Just got back from the airport, and it's hot here. It's 94 degrees.
94. What is that in the rest of the world temperature? Is that like 30?
I have no idea.
I think it's like 31 Celsius.
Oh.
Maybe 30 Celsius. Coincidentally, it is episode 30, and we're going to be talking about mentoring leaders. And now we're going to be starting a new segment of our podcast called PonderWoWsa. Hopefully you guys get that reference to PonderWoWsa if you're Survivor fans. And we'll be talking about Guild Survivor and doing interviews with some of our exit competitors. So it should be a good one. All right. So are you ready for the first segment?
I am absolutely ready for the first segment, but it should be a good one just because we've had so much fun with Survivor and it's been well received so far. So,
what do you want? Survivor? No, I'm talking about Sparty's dad joke of the week.
I don't want to do that part.
Okay, so this one is a fantastic joke.
You never listen to me.
This is a fantastic joke of the week. I told this one at work. They loved it. It's hilarious. I recently, if you follow me on Twitter, you've heard this one on Twitter now, but I'm going to share it for you guys here as well because it is that good. Credit goes to Severus because, I'm stealing it from him.
I need to keep you two apart.
Hey, Midgets. I might regret something, but I bought 2,000 pounds of Chinese soup. It was 1 ton.
Oh, no. Sparky.
Get it? 1 ton? That's 2,000 pounds.
I get it. It's bad.
I'm
You're
hilarious.
Awful.
Oh, man. I love that joke. Thanks, Sev. I'm hilarious.
Do you look in the mirror and go, I'm hilarious, just to keep that going?
No, I look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm awesome, or you're awesome, and that's how I start my day.
Well, it is officially confirmed. I need to keep you and Severus apart.
No. I mean, we're buddies. We're joke buddies. He's a good guy. I like him.
Oh, well, I like Severus too, except for his jokes.
Whatever. He has good jokes. Moving on.
Moving on. So the big news seemed to be, and it had a lot of discussion, was that BFA is going to launch at one time worldwide. What do we think about that?
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I mean, now the EU players can't complain about US having an advantage and then US beating them to world first all the time, right? I mean, oh, right. That's right. EU master race. Yeah. Okay. So now US will complain that, the EU are beating them by 2 days instead of just one.
Well, I look at it this way. They were able to do Overwatch without a whole lot of problems. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But everybody's predicting server crashes and
mass extinctions
things
everywhere.
Yes. the tinfoil hats have come out and everybody is convinced that it's all going to crash. So we'll see.
You know what? I'm pretty confident in Blizzard servers and their architecture now and what they've done. They've come a long way since BC and Wrath launches and World of Draenor launches and 9-hour queues, and they've come a long way. So I've got some faith in terms of how they're going to handle this. The other great news for this is when they did a staggered launch, by day 2, their developers, their server techs were running on no sleep. Here, they're going to get everything done at once and have everybody fresh, whereas they were running on fumes a couple days into it, and it was just crazy. So this would be better for them, ideally, and I mean, it's coming out at a great time here on the West Coast, here in Vancouver, because it'll be 3 p.m., which means I can play for, solid 8, 9, 10 hours and level up quickly. So it'll be good. I'm excited.
I actually think it'll be fine. And I too have faith. They've done so many improvements and they really stress test. So we haven't had too bad. I mean, it's a lot better than it used to be. I've never forgotten the helicopters. I don't remember which X-Pack it was. Was it Miss?
Yeah, we were stuck with the
lovely helicopters that I was there for like a day. I just gave up, and that was the last time I took time off for the launch.
Yeah, no,
but we have other humor because I have to ask this every time I know that Withered Jim is out, because I think it's still hysterical that Arcana Crystal is still such a good.
Is it still that good? I mean, does anybody really care about an Arcana Crystal anymore? Maybe if it's like a high Titan Forged one, right? Because that's going to be equivalent of like a really awesome trinket. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I should try to do it.
You should try to do it. Well, you've only got another day. So, did you get Well, I don't want to talk about that just yet. So let's move on to beta.
Ah,
So
yes.
um, class character feedback has made it to the forums.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen some memes out there, the enhancement ones. You know, they want feedback, right? And at this stage in development, it is a little bit late on the overall feedback aspect. I think a lot of the things have been fleshed out decently. Sure, there's some might be some change in terms of how things feel, but a lot of the feedback was on early in beta, with things feeling clunky, and some things going back on the GCD when the GCD was such a huge issue. I mean, there's feedback now, and maybe it's one of those check boxes of, listen, we had feedback here. This is where you should have given your feedback. Um, I don't know. I don't know if anything's going to come of it. Yeah, I think it should have been months ago when a lot of the class changes were happening. It's what, a month and a half until release, and now we're asking for feedback. Probably a little bit, cutting it close. Yeah, I'm not
well,
sure.
they've been doing it on beta and alpha. They had their forums for those kind of discussions,
For
but
sure.
it's become more public now so that everybody can offer their feedback. And
Hmm.
they've got more people into beta. They've been doing more waves and giving out more keys to the various content providers. And so I think it's a good place to tweak and get some more, especially now that I heard, well, actually, I found out that character copies are now available in beta. So people are actually taking over their 110s with their current gear.
Yes, I've done that a few times actually. I've copied Sparty over multiple times.
Yeah, I found that out.
Yeah, so funny story, guys. Midgets messages me and says, "Hey, where's all the gold gone?" And all that's left in the guild bank is like 200,000 gold. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. I took out like 7-8 million gold out of the guild bank just to borrow, to copy on my character, so I can get a bunch of dinosaur mounts for beta and just run around on them." And she's like, "Oh." Yeah, I sort of I forgot to let her know, so she was a little panicked of where all our guild bank gold went. I mean, we have more than that, but it's a bit of a shocker when your guild bank goes from many millions to 200,000 gold.
Yes, and to not know anything about it, it was such a shock. But I figured out character copies were available.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got 30-40 million gold on beta right now, which is awesome.
Well, and they did their new zone preview for Nazmir Visitors Guide. I
Hmm.
really like what Blizzard's doing with those visitor guides. They're really cool. Did you check that out at all?
Yeah, super pretty. The swampland, the dinosaur pictures, really awesome. This is one of the prettiest zones I've seen in a long time. I think it reminds me a little bit of what Menethil and wetlands. Very primal, very raw, very cool. The last screenshot had some kind of like some kind of cave with smoky mushroom things. I don't know. It was really cool. I like it.
I thought it was really cool, and I've enjoyed what they're doing. But I also keep a close eye on Jeremy Fiesel, which
Of
is
course you do.
Muffinous.
Hmm.
Well, he likes to give you tidbits. And so I don't have to go read all of these things. He'll put these little tidbits up, and then I go, oh, okay, we've got a new secret, or there's something new coming, and he's my go to when we're doing beta stuff. Where do you go?
For beta, I mean, I'll go to Wowhead or MMO, or I'll see what people are saying here, in terms of, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I'm not following the freshest content as soon as it goes live. I do see it on Twitter, right? As soon as people announce something, or I see Perculia saying something, okay, cool. That's a cool new thing. Yeah, I mean, that's mostly it. I'll follow the other guys. There was one tweet I saw towards, what's his name, Taryn Gregory, and somebody I think it was Carlson that tweeted out and said, "Hey, listen, for all the times, Taryn Gregory, we see awesome cutscene here, we better see an awesome cutscene." And he just giggled internally, and he's gonna hype it up even more. So we should have some awesome cutscenes in BFA.
I absolutely can't wait for him. And I stumbled across this guide, and the only reason I'm bringing it on to the podcast, because it's pretty specific, is because there was a certain part of it that just made me laugh. So there's a new guide on Wowhead for the hunter pet guides, and there's some exciting things. You're going to be able to tame toads, unicorns, and bees. I like the bees, and I don't know who wanted toads, but apparently we're going to be able to tame toads. But the best part of this guide is there is now an automatic toggle when you enter a dungeon. Growl's autocast is automatically turned off.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's only taken 14 years for this to happen, because I know tanks have been complaining for 14 plus years of, hey, your pet taunt is on. And this is great. Now it's an automatic toggle off of your pet's taunt is not on, and the tank is not super frustrated that they're losing threat, and every dungeon is skittish with this damn hunter in here.
Well, they can flip it back on, but I just laugh because, I mean, what are you going to do for hunter jokes now?
I'm sure they'll find a way to like multi-shot things and just pull half the zone. Yeah, they'll find a way. They're hunters. Come on. If they had brains, they would have, rolled a healer, right?
Right. So I heard there was some free packs being given away in Hearthstone. You know anything about that?
No? Oh, there's free packs? I probably should log into Hearthstone more. I know they're doing a deal there in Hearthstone, but yeah, I mean, I'll take free stuff, right? I mean...
Well, there's the Hearthstone new pack day. If you log in on June 13th, you'll get a free classic deck of cards.
Oh, 3 days. Okay. I mean, it'll be more dust. I'm sure I have all the classic cards anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, but it's free. You have to log on. I'll at least log on for that. Anything else exciting over in the Hearthstone world?
I don't know. I mean, they have like a small deal of packs. I haven't played in about a month or so. The last Monster Hunt, that was awesome. They need to add more of those things. Every new expansion needs to have more solo play adventures like that, because I think across the entire Hearthstone community, the feedback has been really positive from those things. They're great.
Now this other Wowhead guide that I want to highlight is one that I'd love to do a podcast on. It's how to use WoW Analyzer.
Yeah. So WoW Analyzer was created or authored by, whatever the term is, by Zero to Rescue, one of the Holy Paladin theory crafters. It's been around for quite a while. It really expanded to all the other classes, or a majority of the other classes. And it's a really easy way to read your logs. So people are like, okay, there's logs. I don't know how to read these things. What do I do for clicking all these buttons? I don't have the time, blah, 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 whatever. WoW Analyzer is great because you plug in your parse or your log into this website, and it says, hey, you could be doing this better or this better, and it analyzes these things for you. It's not 100% accurate in terms of context. So it'll say you're doing things poorly when you're doing things properly, and we can expand that in a future podcast. But it's a great tool for any new players, intermediate players out there. It is fan-friggin-tastic, and they should check it out. Just go to wowanalyzer.com. Alternatively, Wowhead does have their guide on how to use WoW Analyzer,
which is awesome. How's it doing on healing?
Again, it's not bad, and we'll expand on it more. For instance, it'll say, hey, Sparty, you didn't cast Light of Dawn enough. Well, to be fair, you shouldn't technically be casting it every single time it's off cooldown, because if the raid's full HP and I cast Light of Dawn, then that's just 100% overhealing, and that's just wasted mana. Whereas sometimes you have to wait for the big damage spike to hit, and then you follow up with the Light of Dawn, and it's waiting there. Like, it's waiting off cooldown, waiting for you to hit it, and WoW Analyzer may tell you, hey, you should be hitting this more often. So it's partly context, but I mean, overall, it's a really, really good tool.
Awesome. Well, I do think we should try to get them on the podcast and at least do some coverage on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to ask you, because I've asked you every week, have you finally installed all the things?
No, I got to do that still. Maybe right after this podcast. I was, in fairness, I was doing achievements with a couple of guildies, and we're trying to get the dungeon hero done finally. It's taken like forever, but we spent 2.5 hours the other night doing it. We're nearly done. Should be complete, sometime this week. So that's really good. And the most frustrating one I'm doing right now is the stupid Blackrock Hold achievement, where you have to get the various pieces of paper, and there's 6 of them that spawn, and the 1 spawns per dungeon. And it's just, I'm constantly refreshing or resetting a normal dungeon, going over and over and over, trying to get that last damn piece. So soon I'll have it done. And then, of course, once I turn on this stupid add-on, I'll find more things to do.
Oh, you will. Well, and the big thing is with first aid going out and going to be gone, all of those achievements will become whatever, it feats of strength, and they won't be available anymore. So I know that's one that people have been working on. And the other thing, of course, is the big mage tower. Now, I heard that Blizzard posted that they're going to make it all available all the time until the end of Legion, and that is coming soon.
That's good. That'll give people enough time to finish up their various, transmog things or secret hidden artifact, whatever they're called. The artifact visible. I can't even speak. Yes, you guys know exactly what I'm
appearances.
talking about. Yes, the appearances, that's the word. The appearances, and you don't have to wait for the mage tower. So that's great. Especially at the end of Legion, we don't want to be waiting for the damn mage tower to come up. We killed the Legion, and now, yeah, in a previous content patch, they keep destroying our damn mage tower. So at this point, we've killed Sargeras, or imprisoned Sargeras, and now we just keep our mage tower up.
Keep our mage tower up until the end of Legion. And one thing about that is Warcraft devs did clarify that you only have to get the initial mage tower challenge. The rest of the challenges, so the mage tower challenges will cease being available in 8.0, but if you've earned any base appearances, you can take your time unlocking their variants. We will get clarification out through official channels. And that was Ian responding to somebody who had asked on the Twitter.
That's good. Awesome.
So what are you doing, Sparty, for the end of XPAC catch-up?
A lot of it's just casual achievement farming. I'm playing other games a little bit too. Like if I have time for other games. I've done some achievements. I know Seven, some of the other guys are doing some first aid ones to get them done. But the other thing is, now that we're on one night clears, which is awesome, the team's been doing a fantastic job pushing through, difficult bosses, a lot of new applicants as well to the guild, just pushing through and making things really efficient. So now I have a little bit more free time. So what we've done is we've started another raid team, and I don't know how I have time for this, but myself and Happy, one of the other officers in Zeros to Heroes, we've started a Wednesday, Thursday heroic / mystic team. And yeah, the intention was to, have a little bit more free time. But this is, we're trying to fill this niche of players want to raid a little bit later. It's not, it's an option for players that, want to do heroic mythic. Some of the other teams have slowed down a bit. Others are still farming. But players want content. They still want to beat bosses. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to jumpstart this team with Happy. And, it's taken off. It's, we're getting some core players. And we have a lot of alts and people just helping out for a little bit. But it is a Wednesday, Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern to 12-ish team. We're already starting to kill mythic bosses. I'm doing it on my crappy warlock, which is, which says a lot. But yeah, it's awesome. So yes, a lot of fun.
I was going to tease you about it, but you answered everything.
Oh, well,
there you go. It was also going to be a transition into what we were going to be talking about, but you said it all.
Oh, well, there you go. Spoiled it.
So we're done. Podcast over. Let's stop.
Good times. And under time. Perfect.
Well, but I was going to tease you because, you're like, I raid too much. And I thought you were trying to cut down the raid teams, but you added another time. And we've spent a lot of time talking about mentoring, specifically focusing on new applicants to your team.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time on mentoring and grooming new leadership from veterans to raid leaders to officers.
It takes a long time.
And then maybe you'll finally get to quit.
Oh my God, please. I've been trying to quit for 13 years. When is it ever going to happen? Right? Like every time. Hey, Sparty's going to find a new holy paladin to replace him, gets a paladin for a little bit, and then the paladin retires. Or a paladin gets hit by a bus, or whatever, right? Who was the last paladin that was taking my spot? Photon. Photon was last, a solid paladin taking my spot. Now we've got another good one, get in there, getting really close. Be nice to, I'm happy sitting out now. We're getting to a point where I can sit out no problem. We've got some other leaders in there, but we'll talk about it. So.
Well, I noticed the last time you sat out that Evelyn was waiting to get into the raid.
Yes, she was calling people jackalopes or calling me a jackalope.
I know. I still need to clip that. So even though you started talking about temp team name, which is the next.
No, it's team temp name. We don't have a name, so the team is called temporary name. We've been debating between Skull dies last because apparently they can't attack the right target, which is Skull, right? And some other, I can't remember what the other names were, but they need to vote on it. I'm not going to be part of it. It's whatever the team wants to do in terms of, it's a team. Like it's your name, make it yours.
So why did we create another team? Why did you do this?
Why did you do? Why do you do things? Again, a lot of it is just to fill that sort of niche environment, that niche raid team. We had other raid teams, some late night raid teams that did Mythic, and players coming in now. I mean, we have players coming back into the game where other guilds are falling apart because now it's time in Legion where summer's coming, people are quitting, and guilds are no longer raiding. Well, we need to still give these players an avenue to raid, to kill bosses, to collect loot, to get their cutting edges, whatever. And this, I thought, would fill a role, and it has. It's growing. I've had players that, hey, I want to tank, but there's no room in the other raid teams to tank. I'm like, okay, cool. So let's start a raid team for you. And with these kinds of things, when someone has a good idea, and the philosophy is, if they've got a great idea, it's not if it'll happen, it's how and when can we make this happen? Under what parameters can we make this work? And so Happy and I and some of the other guys have found a way to make it work, and it's growing. Like it's a lot of work, but it's growing.
Yeah, but you guys aren't going to keep raid leading it. So there's got to be another purpose of you creating this team other than just giving people a place to raid, because once BFA's out, you guys are both back into progression, and I know Wobble's talking about moving times. So
yeah, and so the second part of this is really to groom some new raid leads and some new people, which is really the core and the crux of our podcast today. Grooming these players, and we can talk about veterans and offers and things like that. But we want to make sure we have people in a place to take over this raid team, because Happy and I have no desire to be here to be raiding with this team long term. Right now is fine, but at the same time, we want to make sure we have a good transition, and it's not just, okay, you find a raid leader, go. It's grooming the players and grooming the raid leaders into what makes a good raid leader and what's been successful with Death Jesters and Zeros to Heroes for the past, 14 years.
Well, in fairness, we got pretty lucky because we, the beginning of Legion, we kind of just threw a whole 7 teams together and said, here, pick a lead, go.
Yeah,
and they've done
great.
really well. But we're trying to be a little more organized going into BFA.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you guys are still sort of looking for raid leads, and you have a couple of people interested. But ultimately, you're sort of using it as an environment to show people how you guys raid lead, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is leading by example, and we do things very deliberately. Myself and Happy, and even though we haven't really discussed a lot of it, I know how we're playing together, where when I stream these raids, the the Discord specifically is streamed, so people know what kind of environment it is and how we raid lead and that kind of stuff. And the players that are in the team themselves, or the players looking outside, know exactly what we expect in terms of this team, right? It's not the same expectations that I have of Death Jesters. A lot of it is learning, and it's not the same expectations that Happy has of Wobble Gobble, which is one of the Zeros to Heroes cutting edge teams. But it's a good little mix in between, where it's a lot of learning. It's this is why you would stand in, or this is, for instance, this is why you would get knocked back a certain way on Garathi, because you want to use these invisible walls, or this is why you want to position the boss this way. It's a lot of teaching, and it's a lot of grooming, and it's keeping people accountable and making swaps as needed. But it's a little bit of everything. So it's been great so far.
Well, and that's awesome. And I know, just from because I've been helping with the team too, that it's going to continue to grow, and it's going to evolve into one of our new teams going into BFA. But we're always growing, and we have to add to our leadership team in a lot of ways. So how do we go about doing that?
A lot of it is making sure the players that you have in mind have the same core values, right? And I don't know, one of my old Coach's Corner videos or one of our old podcasts, I've always said that the leadership team should be an extension of yourself, right? And they should be complementing your weaknesses, and you should be, using your strengths to build the rest of your leadership team. And so when you look at for players that are going to be part of your leadership team or raid leaders, you want those core values, not necessarily a person that agrees with me the entire time. I don't need that, right? I want players that are going to disagree with me, right, and have good reason to do so, and we can have a good discussion about it. So that's one of the great things. So you want to have people that have the right philosophy, the right core values, and start from there. The other part is, having that respect. They should have enough of a respect of the team or the community. It's, I've had players come up to me in Zeros to Heroes and say, hey, I want to start a raid team. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, there's a lot of work to be had, right? It's a lot of responsibility. You're taking upon the Zeros to Heroes or the DJ name when you want to raid lead these things. It's a long process rather than just go. So I try to steer some of those guys in the right direction. Okay, let's see if we have enough numbers, and we'll start, making it happen and putting the effort toward it. But yeah, I mean, you have to make it happen, right? You need to have volunteers. You need, well, or people to be voluntold to do certain things. But people need to step up, and it's not just the officer or the GM or whatever doing things. It's everybody stepping up and everybody putting in the effort. So part of it is selecting strong leaders for your team. And again, those leaders should be an extension of you. They should have the same core values as you, the same philosophies. They know what your raid, let's say my raid leading style is like, but they don't necessarily need to raid lead the same way, right? But they need to keep people accountable. They need to have the same sort of qualities, which we'll touch on in the future. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is looking for the right players, and part of it is your gut. You need to use your gut for, is this person going to be a great person, great leader long term? With Death Jesters, typically it was a long process. It would be, okay, this person goes through their app phase, which is typically 6+ weeks. They're going to be a member for 6 months. Then at that point, they're probably ready for a veteran position if they've shown leadership and leading by example. At that point, we see, okay, well, this person, I always have a gut feeling of this guy's good head on their shoulders, or this girl's got a good head on her shoulders. Great leadership, calm, all this stuff, a lot of the basic things that I need for a leader. And then I start grooming over a good 6-month period to make them a DJ officer. And it's been very rare for me to make a mistake with an officer.
No, and it's worked out well. But that doesn't mean, when you talk about core values, because when you think about the core values of our community, it's not a situation of we agree all the time, because we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's different opinions and different ways and different things that happen. What you're looking for, though, is somebody that takes those base core values, because a lot of times they can expand on them and make things even better.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You want players that have different perspectives, and sometimes you want new blood. And if you're in the same environment or the same work environment for so long, you don't have a perspective of what else is going on out there. What are some other really good techniques? Unless you're reading all those little leadership books or seminars, doing all that stuff, you might get stuck in your own little groove, and that might be good or bad. But you really need to get some fresh people in there sometimes, and teach. Get out there and teach and give people opportunities to succeed or sometimes to fail.
Well, and how do you groom them? Because there has to be, you're teaching moments. We've talked about it before. You fail forward.
Yes.
And it's one of my favorite statements. You should never be happy with your first rendition. You fail forward, and always improve on it. And so talk a little bit about how you mentor, whether it's a new raid leader or a new loot council officer or a veteran, or within our own team, our ZTH leadership, because it's a little bit different with ZTH. So let's touch on both of them.
So with a lot of it is, again, you want people to fail and make those mistakes, and failure should be, failing forward, and you're always looking for perpetual improvement. I did a presentation this weekend at work, and, standing ovation, 100+ people, but I'm like, oh, this is not good enough. I know for next year, I want to be doing better improvements with, with this presentation and how it works. But with Zeros to Heroes and DJs, it's a lot of, letting them try different things, giving them ideas, and you want to steer the ship in the right direction. But at the same time, you need to let them make mistakes. As a leader, I've seen plenty of people make mistakes, and you have to let them try. So even though, let's say, Midgets has a great idea about doing something, I know it's not a good idea, and I know it's not going to succeed. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you want to do this, let's have you try. And I know that this idea is not really going to harm the guild. There's not a lot lost. Let's let Midgets fail. That is totally fine. There's plenty of examples where, I know the right answer, but the damage is so minimal that you need to allow people to make mistakes. It's totally fine. Not to show them that you were right, but to have them realize that there was a better way, and the best teaching moments are failures. Players and people won't learn if you just keep telling them the right answer. People need to figure some things out for themselves sometimes. For instance, my daughter, like, I'm teaching her how to build blocks or whatever. And, yes, I could stack the blocks for her or help her, but no, I have her try, and, she knocks the blocks down, and adults are the same way, right? You want them to try, and yeah, give them some guidance and show them different things, but they need to try and they need to experience things.
I think some of the biggest challenges within the leadership team that I've seen is dealing with conflict. Whether it's somebody coming and saying Joe was mean to me, we had, and said these bad things, and how to handle it and how to address it, and how to look. I know one of the biggest challenges over the past 3 years with Zeros to Heroes has been they'll get one side of the story, react to that without finding out the whole picture. So, how do you work through that?
A lot of that is just experience, and when I would groom the DJ officers, I would create drama just for them. For instance, back in Wrath, I've got some good examples where, I don't know, something was happening in GDKP, and I was mentoring and grooming this one officer for the position. And we just started shit. I'm like, hey, this guy is starting shit over here. This buyer, whatever. There's an issue here. Just go deal with it. And I want to see how they would deal with these different things. And do they want to act in professional capacity? Are they going to represent the guild well? Are they going to get both sides of the story? How calm are they going to be? And you let them make mistakes. You let them learn. You see how ready they are for those kind of positions. But you also want to give them that feedback. That feedback is super important because we all need it. Of, okay, well, that was a good try. This is probably a better way to do it next time. Try this, right? Try this technique, or try listening to both sides and doing it in a different environment, or try a different tone. And how people react to different things is part of it, right? Sometimes they need the soft kitty gloves. Sometimes Sparty has the sledgehammer on the keyboard, and that happens, apparently frequently.
All the time, dear, all the time. But let's talk about that, because one of the biggest challenges I think I've seen with the newer leaders coming in is they've rated with these people, they're their friends, and then taking a role where they're either enforcing expectations
Hmm.
or dealing with conflict issues between two of their teammates. It's really interesting watching them navigate. How do you oversee that?
It's funny. That reminds me of when I was 2021, promoted to like a pool supervisor. I was running my own pool, running my own staff, and it was tough to get rid of that friend mentality of like, well, now I'm responsible for my staff, and it's I can't be their friend all the time. I need to be their leader, right? I'm not going to say boss, but I need to be their leader and lead by example. And part of that is overseeing things. We communicate things really well in our leadership team of things going on, and for instance, I'll just show them examples of, okay, well, I just had a conversation with somebody over here, and this is how I dealt with it. That's it, right? Like, it's just showing people how I do things that are successful and having them pick up on those things. Because if you don't show them and you just sort of harp on, okay, well, you screwed this up, you screwed the pooch, you didn't talk to this person well, who showed them to do it properly, right? By giving these guys proper examples and proper guidance, they're going to be more successful long term as well.
Well, and what's interesting is because you're always dealing with different people who have different passions or reactions, and it's just a game to. Um, I need people who progress harder, and so sometimes, and oftentimes you have that same mentality within one team.
Hmm.
I'm just here to raid Friday, Saturday, and the other guy wants to, have all his alts at 110 with the Mage Tower appearances for all 15 of them done within, the first month. And you have those variables. And so sometimes there is conflict in how to navigate it and when to make it a big deal and when to let it sort of just sort itself out. And it's a real new learning experience especially for the newer leaders when they're coming in.
For
And
sure.
I think that only experience, I don't know, how do you teach that? Because I really think that I sort of just let it go until I feel like I need to step in for myself. When I'm teaching others, it's sort of like, okay, well, let's just let them go for a while, and then when I need to step in, I will, because where it's going to explode or become a bigger deal, and where to redirect if you have to, especially after this many years of running a guild. So what sage advice would you give to newer leaders that have growth, or have those kind of conflicts, and they're grooming leaders too, but they're not themselves quite that experienced.
I mean, there's plenty of advice. The big one is, ask not what your guild can do for you, but you can do for your guild. It's, that old JFK quote turned into Warcraft. In terms of, what to do and those kinds of things, giving these guys, plenty of chances, and giving them the opportunities to succeed. A lot of it is just praise, right? We set up different expectations, and part of it is managing those expectations, whether it's on your raid team or in the guild, and setting the tone, right? Well, this is what I expect, and this is what we want to do. And if people are doing a good job, praise it, right? We had issues when we were starting up a looking for raid, or looking for group raid channel in our Discord in our guild, and we navigated different ways. And now that people or the leadership team is doing it really well, it's praise. A great job communicating. Okay, well, who's going to take that guy? This guy just posted that he's 4 out of 11 mythic and raid every single day. Well, who wants him? Okay, well, where is it going to be for the best fit, right? What's the best fit for this guy going to be in the guild, and what's going to work for the teams, whether it's a different role, that kind of stuff, right? So a lot of it is just praise, and giving them the right feedback as appropriate, whether it's constructive, and sometimes you just need to pivot and make those those snap decisions and step in. We also asked our raid leads, or one of our raid leads asked, what are the good qualities of an effective raid lead? And he shared a list, and a lot of them are, let me think here, just organization, knowledge of raid boss fights, communication skills, adaptability, tact, hardworking, focused. Like, the list goes on. And I don't necessarily agree with all of these. I think these are great. These are great attributes that make a good leader, but you don't need to have them all. You can be working on a lot of them, and you get to a point, right? Like, you don't start off as an awesome leader right away. You make plenty of mistakes, and I've made plenty of mistakes myself for the past 14 years, whether it's raid leading or guild leading or whatever, and you learn from them. You don't repeat them, right? We had back in vanilla, we took a package deal of a guy and a girl back in vanilla, a mage and a priest. And, ever since that learning experience, we've never taken package deals as applicants anymore.
Well, and sometimes that's a good way to go, and sometimes it's not. And it's interesting, too, because I've got 27 years of, well, more than that. We'll just stop at 27, of management experience. I started managing young, from, convenience stores to pizza places to where I'm at now. And sometimes going with I had a bad experience here and never doing it again is good, and sometimes it's bad. But it's something that you tend to learn. It goes back to that, how much damage is it going to be to try? Because as long as you can just try it, sometimes just letting them try it, even if it has the same result, as long as it's not going to be very detrimental, is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's such a silly attitude to have sometimes, where, this hurt the first time, I'm never going to have it again. You had pizza for the first time, it was too hot, you're never going to have pizza again. Think of what you're missing, right? Like, all that delicious Hawaiian pizza you could be eating. Oh, man.
No, you see, you said pineapple on pizza. We do never, ever eat pineapple.
Well, we're going to send a separate podcast here on why you're wrong. And, I'd love to agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. But we can move on.
Well, let's move on. So I think that I want to help with leadership. My guild needs better recruitment. They don't know what they're doing. We need a PvP team, a pet battle corner.
That's fantastic, Midgets. You have just volunteered. You have all these ideas. You have just volunteered for running these ideas, because you think, I have the bandwidth to run all these things. These are great ideas. But if you have an idea, you are going to run it, and we're going to find a way to make it happen. But you are now in charge, and you're going to find a way to make it happen, because not everybody has the bandwidth to do all these things. I can help facilitate them, and I can help give you the framework. But you want a new raid team? That's awesome. You're going to run the raid team, not Sparty, right? We don't have enough hours in the day to do all these awesome ideas, and they are awesome ideas. But we can't. One person cannot run it all.
Well, no, and we've had some great examples, and we value people's input. But one of the things that I've said frequently is, if you're waiting for me to do it, keep waiting. because there are only so many hours in the day. But you know what? We've had some outstanding ideas, and it started with a document and somebody really pushed an idea on recruitment, and that was teardrops. I give him kudos. To which that grew, and then Ranch made this beautiful document.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're coming up with Hildar is coming up with a raid leader mentoring program.
Fantastic.
So, you know, and they're taking it on, they're making it happen, and you know, they may be ashamed of their first rendition, but they're failing forward, and they keep pushing. And we have a core team that really cares.
Yep.
And so off they go, and they push to get these ideas out there. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And these players or people that complain, it's not complaining for the sake of complaining. It's when people complain, often is because they really care, right? They want to see things improve. That being said, you know, yes, they want to improve, and you know, yes, they want to do these things. Okay, well, put in the effort and put in the work. It's not enough to say, well, we need to do this for recruitment. Okay, well, who's going to put in the man hours to manage this recruitment idea? Or who's going to put in the man hours to make this document or this raid leader mentoring program? Because guaranteed, it's not the limited leadership that we have up there. It's, you know, it's these guys which are the next generation of leaders that need to be, you know, put to task. And eventually, when they're grooming their own raid leaders, they saw what success, you know, we had in our program.
Well, and it's all good things. So I want to help organize a team. What should I expect?
Fantastic. So you want to organize a team? Great. So we're going to be there to help facilitate that team. We're going to help with recruitment. We're going to give you, you know, spreadsheets to help set it up. We're going to give you, you know, raid lead mentoring. So we'll be there in those raids. We'll give you that feedback as you go, right? And it's okay to make those mistakes. And, you know, with some of the DJ raid leads and DJ vets that are coming up, we've let them make those mistakes. It's totally fine. And then I'll say, yeah, great job on here, or this was a really bad call. Do this next time, or make this go a little bit faster, or stop clearing trash. You should be doing swaps, that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of it is feedback, and a lot of it is grooming players because I want the team to succeed. I want the guild to succeed as well, and you know, you're going to get help every step of the way that you can to make sure it happens.
Well, and not everything is about raiding teams. So I want to help my community in other areas. I really like your fun events.
Awesome.
I want to help there.
That's great. And so speak up. I mean, make it happen. What do you like about the fun events, right? I've had players reach out and say, hey, this is a really cool idea for Guild Survivor. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, can you give me more information? Like, this is great, right? Like, how can I make this happen? We had one guy come up with this amazing trivia page, and I'm like, this is great. We're going to use this. Keep building on this. Give me more questions, right? And we're going to do that for, you know, a future event at some point. You know, great ideas are just ideas until someone makes it happen. You have to put in the effort. It's not enough to just have ideas. You have to go send that rocket to the moon. Right? You need to put it together rather than just say, oh, I want to go to the moon. Well, okay, well, how are you going to do it? And, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, but it's worth it in the end. And every step of the way, you have to celebrate those successes. And if you guys remember my podcast a little while ago where I talked about the Elon Musk thing where, you know, the rocket exploded, whatever, but it was a success because they learned so much from it. And every step of the way that you're failing or succeeding or whatever, you need to celebrate those successes that are both big and small, right? You've got a team that I think Ramrod team here just got their Glory of the Taurus Raider. Awesome. That's a huge success, right? Another team that's just getting ahead of the curve or cutting edge or killing a new boss. That's awesome. That's a huge success for this team, right? Every personal best is a huge, huge success. And you need to, you know, give those guys the positive feedback. Right. And, you know, well, children need positive feedback. But you know what? Adults are children that are just taller and wider. That's it. You know, we want to give the same kind of positive feedback whenever players are doing a really good job.
Well, we do. And, you know, one of the things is, and you talk about celebrating successes, but I want to go back to speaking up. There's, you know, 500 people in our Discord. There is no way I know everybody. And we may have some really awesome people within our community who would really benefit, you know, help with graphics, maybe finally get you your newsletter that you want, all of these different things. And there's always something that can be done. Just talking to people. You know, Amy asked me, how can I help you? And I said, just talk to people, greet them in the Discord, be there. And so there's so many things you can do. And as with BFA coming back, we're going to have an influx of a lot of people coming back. So the more people we have helping, just on a personal level, will be great. So reach out, say something, say, I want to help. I have this idea. Because maybe you'll find yourself getting to do a whole lot more things. And it sounds like a lot of work, isn't it, Sparty?
Oh, like it's a crap ton of work. I've got this spreadsheet that I'm happy to share with you guys afterwards of how many hours I actually have in a week to play, right? Like to do non-guild stuff, right? Like I've got my entire week planned out, and I think I've got, I don't know, a few hours to play games or do other stuff, but a lot of it is taken up by work and by guild admin stuff. And it sounds like a job, but and oftentimes it is. With respect to helping out, and people speaking up, a lot of it is just keeping those connections going and talking to people and seeing how their days are going. Every time I log on a Friday, Saturday, you'll hear me say, happy Friday, happy Saturday, how's it going, guys, that kind of stuff. And, we'll do dungeons together, we'll do raids together. Again, a lot of it is those connections. And even in Discord, we have a lot of regulars that are constantly talking or shooting the shit, whatever. But you want more people to do that, right? You want to make sure it's an environment that people, aren't afraid to speak up and people are okay saying hello. And not everybody needs to be social. People are lurkers, and that is 100% fine. But you want to continue building more vocal players and more vocal people in your communities. You want more of that, absolutely.
And just to answer the question, no, Midgettes does not stream too. Sparty had a hard time getting her to do the podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
But we have people who want to do something totally different that's not in our culture. Now what?
Well, let's see if it's the right culture, right? Let's see if there's a place for it, right? Oh, this guy wants to start a horde raid in Zeros to Heroes in the Alliance Guild. Well, okay, let's see how we can make it happen, right? Well, we do have a horde side guild as well. It's not as active as our Alliance one, but let's see if there's a way to make it happen. You want to make sure it's the right culture and there's enough interest. And like I mentioned earlier, the one guy wants to start an afternoon raid team, raiding 2 to 5 Eastern every single day. Okay, cool. There might be some interest in that one. Before we spend all this effort and time and everything else into a new potential team, let's see if there's enough interest in it, right? Because if there's not enough interest, well, why put in the time and effort toward it?
Okay, so and I think that's awesome. New and different. And that's what we're going to be covering, how to have an environment that offers resources for newer, inexperienced players or other things, PvP, while continuing to support various levels of progression from our raid teams and some of the challenges in next week's podcast. It ought to be an interesting conversation at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a ton of resources out there. And one of the best resources are the players around you, right? Whether it's the people in your leadership team or other leaders out there. I've had people, reach out to me from other guilds and ask questions and ask advice. And that's a lot of what the stream is about here too, right? Just ask questions and get the feedback. And, oftentimes people ask me questions here in Twitch chat, and then I read them out loud. I'm like, this sounds like a really silly question. Let's say it out loud. And it's not there to patronize them, but I'm like, when you really think this through, it's time for you to move on to your guild, or you have, a different level of expectations in your guild and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's constant, we want to give constant support to our players and really go from there. So next week's podcast will definitely be a good one.
It absolutely will. So how are we going to transition to our coverage of Guild Survivor? Because we have to bring people in at this point.
We do. So for those of you that are joining us, we have an awesome Monday segment called Guild Survivor. It is 2 guilds, 2 tribes, 1 sole survivor. We have millions of gold in a gold prize. It's at least 2 million gold at this point. They compete in 2 challenges every single week. We had our first episode last week, which is awesome. 2 of our players did get voted off. Unfortunately, both PonderWoWsa and Osirif. So we're calling this Guild Survivor segment, the last part of our little podcast, PonderWoWsa. For those of you that are Guild Survivor fans, Survivor fans, you remember PonderWoWsa and all the behind the scenes stuff. But let's pull him right in here, and we'll get him right into the podcast. All right, so we have Osirif and PonderWoWsa joining us here. Hopefully their microphones are working. But hello, guys, how's it going? Crickets.
Well,
maybe. Okay. Well, we're gonna continue talking.
Well, Osirif is muted. They're both muted.
That's okay. Well, hopefully they'll unmute themselves. But we're gonna start talking about last week's events.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Osiris. And there we go. There's Pandoxy as well.
How we
Perfect.
doing?
Hey,
That's
Pandoxy.
actually our fault. So when we pull people in, we're gonna have to unmute them.
Oh, that's our bad. Yeah, well, again, learning experience, right? That was a failure that we are learning from and going forward from. But welcome, guys. How did you guys enjoy Survivor last week? Your first episode, and well, not Osiris. Osiris, have you played Survivor with us before? Osiris? Pandoxy, did you have fun with Survivor?
So yes, I did. It was unfortunately
Yeah,
short-lived, but
it's been 2 years now in a row.
Oh, bit of a delay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Pandoxy. Go for it.
so like I was saying, it was unfortunately short-lived, but yeah, I did have a good time, and I was looking forward to playing a little bit more, but unfortunately, that's not what transpired.
But that's the right attitude. I was looking forward to play more. I had so much more to give. I wanted to win that damn prize. So we had our first battleground, which was the Isle of Conquest, which was very fitting because as we say goodbye to Legion, we say hello to BFA and no more Isle of Conquest. How did you guys feel about that battleground choice, starting with Pandoxy?
So that was probably the second time that I've ever played that battleground. I actually really did enjoy it the first time. It's a little bit chaotic. There's a lot going on.
Yep.
Usually there's a lot more players on there, but
oh, sorry, it was Strand, not Isle of Conquest. Sorry, yes. But yeah, it was fun. So it was your second time playing?
Yeah, second time playing that one, but it was definitely really fun, and we had some good communication going on, and we worked together pretty well.
Awesome. And Osiris, have you played the Strand Battleground much? I think we're having some technical difficulties with Osiris, but that's okay. We'll count in there. So yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was, I think, a lot of players that we have in both guilds don't do a lot of PvP, which was great.
All the time, honestly.
That's okay. So a lot of players don't PvP a lot, which is great because a lot of them were learning, and we had some really good communication. We were bouncing between both channels, both the DJ tribe and the Zeros to Heroes tribe, in terms of how they're communicating and that kind of stuff. And it was great because we had some really great shot callers, but the games were pretty close. So Pandoxy, how close did you see it? Right? I mean, neither team broke down the final gate, but they were pretty close. What did you attribute to the success or the strength of your team?
So we definitely had some good shot calling going on. We kind of had a game plan where people were just calling out targets, and everybody tried to focus on those guys. And so I think that really helped us out. And then we had a couple calls to group up and try and make some strong final pushes, which definitely helped towards the end there.
Oh, for sure. I think the best part of that, well, one of the best parts of that battleground itself was right at the start. Sev decides to jump off the boat and swim. Give the DJ team a bit of a handicap at the start, but eventually he swam across the ocean to join the rest of his team, and I thought that was friggin' hilarious. Did that affect the team at all?
That was hilarious. It got us all in a good mood. So props to Sev for that.
Awesome. And so the first one, it ended in a tie. I mean, technically, I think the Alliance team won, but because it was a war game, we're both Alliance. Okay, fine. And I think both teams got down to 54% or something like that. It was close. I'm not sure. We'd have to check the VOD again. But so we settled it in a duel. We had each team choose a champion. We didn't want to go tank versus tank and be there forever, healers for healer. So we told them to choose a DPS with whatever talents stuff they wanted. And both teams chose a Ret Paladin to represent their teams. Iron Dan for Death Jesters and Talmudim for Zeros to Heroes. How was that duel, Pandoxy?
It was an interesting duel to watch. It was very close, as everyone that was watching saw. But people behind the scenes saw a little banter going on. Maybe we'll have to release that to the other side.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of chirping going on both sides in terms of pictures and things like that. There was a good Neo one I saw in the DJ channel with respect to that battleground. With respect to that duel. For those of you that didn't see, both players flasked up, potted, pre-potted. Did we get a heroism as well? Did we get drums running?
Yeah, somebody popped drums.
Yeah, so they popped drums. I mean, they were in the same group, so technically they got the same buffs, but it was close because it was one of those like 10, 15-second duels where a couple crits and, one person just exploded. But yeah, it was a really good one. It was a ton of fun. So going into that one, so DJs wins the first one, and you guys have the edge. One person has to sit out, so they decide to sit scan out, which is not a really mobile player as a Death Knight. And then you guys went through to Ulduar. So tell us a little bit about how Ulduar went for Team Death Jesters.
So yeah, we decided to sit scan because him being a Death Knight, he's not the most mobile guy on the team, and so we set up a game plan. Everyone was kind of going to target their own boss, and so we did that. But unfortunately, as most people know, there was some combat glitch going on where we couldn't get through the gate because of combat blocked, and that's kind of what spelled our fate.
So tell me more about this combat issue bug. What exactly happened?
I think it's something to do with Razor Scale, where some ads keep battling or something, and so you're just permanently locked in combat, and so you can't use the teleportation device while you're locked in combat, and so no one could get to Mimeron, and that's one of the lengthier fights in the instance, and as a result, we fell behind because no one could teleport up there, and that was our loss.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know there was some secrets to doing Razor Scale. So for those of you that don't know, if you're a Protection Paladin, I think you choose the Holy Shield talent, you're actually able to reflect the fireballs back onto Razor Scale to get through that encounter really quickly. But yeah, I mean, depending on how each of the tribes had played, if they pulled Razor Scale quickly, I think I can't remember how the Zeros to Heroes tribe played it out. But yeah, I mean, you were stuck in combat during that entire encounter. You were not able to teleport. If any encounters were going on, you were not able to teleport. So you had to pick and choose at which time you were going to use your teleports. And Zeros to Heroes did win that one pretty quickly. Yeah, there was a couple funny pictures there where the DJ team is trying to get through, and that's a funny one there, linked by Alid. But it was good. And so going into that, you guys went through the votes. So, PonderWoWsa, why do you think you were voted off first on the DJ tribe?
So I have two theories.
Okay.
One is that I'm the most hated player in the entire guild, and the second one, the one I like a little bit more, is that the pawns were trying to take out the king before he got too powerful. They were riling up while they could.
Yeah, and
they took out the only mage in our portal, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right. I don't think the hated aspect is there at all. It's well, do you take out the threats early? Oftentimes you try to keep the stronger players in the game to to really keep their tribe stronger. And they took out what? The heroism. Do they have another heroism on the team? Is there anyone left on that team that can use hero?
I think our hunter can. Shiva should be able to hero.
Okay, so yeah, so she's got the pet to hero. You guys have that, but I mean, you're missing the blinks. You're missing the movement, right? Part of it could be relationships, right? As a relatively newer player into the guild, I guess, do you think that played a part in the vote at all?
It definitely could have. There was some other newer players in there, but that could definitely play a role in that for sure.
Okay, very good. And going to Osiris, and I know there's a bit of a delay here. There was some discussion of people didn't know Osiris here was Ashram, and that was potentially the reason why he was voted off. It was a brand new tribe, and Death Jesters are one raid team, but in Zeros to Heroes we have one large guild from multiple raid teams. Was there some discussion of we don't know who this guy is. We don't know who Osiris is, who's been around for a while, and who is this Ashram guy? Because there were some split votes between both Osiris and Lionel going into that vote. We'll give him a sec to respond here.
I really don't know. I just feel like it was just my time to go again, 2 years in a row, just being the first player again.
See, if you're being voted off the first person 2 years in a row, maybe they see you as the biggest threat. You're the Russell, you're the Sandra, you're the person that is gonna win it, and that is gonna cause absolute havoc for the other team and for your team. So maybe take that as a compliment that you've been voted out twice, or the first in both seasons, both season 2 and season 3 of Survivor.
Well, I do know that there was some discussion that they didn't know it was Osiris. So that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of good learning going forward, for future episodes of Survivor. But I mean, Pandoxy, what are you expecting for next week's episode? Because the tribes are getting their tree mail tomorrow. There are two new events, or 2 events happening tomorrow. What would you expect next for an event?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I'm looking forward to maybe some kind of riddle, something like that. Something people are really gonna have to think about it, work it out together.
Yeah, the riddles that Ariana has created are fantastic. They do allude a little bit in terms of what events are going to happen next. So the tribes will we'll look forward to it, and you guys in Twitch chat can start guessing as to what the next events are going to be in Guild Survivor. But that was fantastic. Yeah, thank you. And Midgets, anything else to add?
Well, yeah, you were supposed to ask me about my funny question.
What's your funny question?
I laughed. Well, I was asked yesterday what they would need to do to find out who voted for them.
What they need to do
and
to find out who voted for them?
I'm going to tell on Hashtag wants to know who voted for him.
Oh, well, I've saved all the votes, obviously. At the end, I'm happy to share who voted for who, which tribal. But yeah, no, not right now. I mean, I know who all the votes are, and I tally them all up, and I'm just waiting for the time where we get a tie. And we have to draw rocks, and the time where everybody but one person has an immunity idol. So we're gonna have some really fun twists.
Well, and don't forget, last time we brought back people who were voted off. So you never know what we might decide.
Yeah, you never know. These guys may have been sent off to Ghost Redemption Island, and they may come back at some point. And we've done that in season 1, right? So you never know. You never know. I mean, you have more to give to these tribes. Well, you may get a second chance at some point, maybe. Perhaps.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Awesome. So we will see you guys next week for our next week's podcast. Again, tune in tomorrow around 10 p.m. Eastern for Guild Survivor Episode 2, Season 3. It'll be a great one. Both tribes are down to 9 players. We will have both new events, and maybe something might be making a comeback. So Tree Mail arrives tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. We still have lots of beta keys to give away. I'm sure we'll give away plenty more because we want you guys to play beta and play with those dinosaurs. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Have a good night. Be excellent to each other. And as always, live your life heroically. Have a fantastic evening.